Big T, and I'm back again with another video, and it's time for me to get back to finishing what I started like over a year ago. My goodness, where does the time go? And that is my N64 collection. So you've seen parts 1, 2, and 3, hopefully. You don't have to have seen them to have seen this one. There's no order or anything like that, but understand that at the end of this video, towards the end, I'll be getting into the best games on the system, and that'll culminate with my last video for this series, which will be the best games, at least that I own, for the N64 on the system. So keep that in mind. If you want to save the best for last, go ahead and watch those other videos first and then come back. But let's get it started. As you can see on the back, it says N64 cassette, and that's strange because unless you were in Japan, that's not what the back of your N64 game said. And yes, this is a Japanese game, but it's Mario Kart 64. I have the Japanese version. I'm not even sure why. I think it's because I ended up trading it in back in the day, and I got it on the Virtual Console for the Wii. And then I just decided I'll get the Japanese version just to have a physical version of the game because it was cheaper. So here you go. Mario Kart 64 doesn't really need an introduction. Great game. It's the second in the series. For me, it was the one that really blew the doors open for Mario Kart. And it's the one I really got into, especially with the 4-player aspect of it on the N64. That was great times, me and my friends. And yeah, it's a great game, Mario Kart 64. Next up, we have Destruction Derby 64. This is a multi-plat game. It's also on other consoles. I believe it was on PS1. I'm not sure if it was on Sega Saturn. I don't think so. Could be. But this is also another great multiplayer game. It's a destruction-based, not really racing game, but it's just a battle type of game where you have your junk car and you're just smashing into your friends or into other people if you play solo. Really fun game, really fun destruction game. It's another one of those games I played so many times with my friends, and 4-player multiplayer. Great game. And next up we have Ridge Racer. Shout out to Kazurai. Ridge Racer 64. I love racing games, and the N64 had a plethora of them, and Ridge Racer 64 is one of the best. Really love this game. There's not really much, I don't think to say about this game. It's a really good arcade racer. Has a lot of cool vehicles and tracks and gameplay style. So definitely check this out if you have an N64. It's also a multi-plat as well. It's on PS1, obviously. So yeah, great game. Next up, we have Monaco Grand Prix. I'm not sure if I did this on purpose, where I have all these racing games back to back. I think I did. But Monaco Grand Prix is a really good game from Ubisoft. Really good IndyCar racing game. This is a very simulation style game, so if you're not into those, it might not be your cup of tea. But if you like racing as much as I do, I like all the different types of cars and different types of styles when it comes to racing. And IndyCar racing is one of the best. So this is a really good game for the N64, so check it out. Next up, we have NASCAR 99. Yes, I won't say I'm a big NASCAR fan or I've ever been a big NASCAR fan. My friend was, my best friend in the whole world, was a big NASCAR fan, and or still is actually. And we both played this game together, so I basically bought this because I knew he would play it with me. So, and I love racing games. But NASCAR is one of those games where you got to really get into it. It's very simulation. It's very, it sticks to the rules of NASCAR. This is a licensed game, obviously, by EA Sports, and it's good. It's really good. I mean, I don't have a big barometer to gauge to say which are the best games in this type of series, but for me, I really enjoyed this game, especially playing it with my friend. Then we have Mace: The Dark Age. This is one of those mini fighters that came out for the N64 from Midway. They did quite a few 3D fighters from the arcades, and Mace was one of them. This is a mature rated title, so there's a lot of blood, gore, not too different from what you would see in like a Mortal Kombat game. And this is a 3D based fighting game. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's interesting. I like the different types of characters in this game. It's very medieval style, so if you're into that, check it out. Another game that needs no introduction is South Park for the N64. This surprised a lot of people because of South Park's adult humor, and for it to be coming out on N64 was strange to a lot of people, but you know, Nintendo has always had mature games. I never understood that stigma. I understood the fact that they do like family-friendly stuff as well, but they do have mature-rated titles. N64 was no different, and South Park was not a great game. The best thing about it was obviously the humor and the characters. You had to be a South Park fan. It's a first-person shooter, I guess you would call it, where you basically throw snowballs and you fight turkeys, and it's cool because you get to go around the town and of South Park, and it was really cool, especially if you got this game back then to be able to be in that world, and that's mostly what I liked about it. So yeah, South Park. Next up, we have Duke Nukem 0 Hour. This is a third-person action game starring Duke Nukem. Not a great game. Again, not terrible, but it's fun enough. Nice visuals. I thought it had pretty good visuals in it. Nice explosion effects and all that kind of stuff. It tried to be like a more serious take on Duke Nukem, which didn't really work all the time, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good game. Duke Nukem 0 Hour. Next up, we have Tom and Jerry Fist of Fury. I believe this game was a exclusive to either Blockbuster or Games, not GameStop. It was EB Games, I think, back then. It's still EB Games in some places. I believe in Canada it's still EB Games, but I'm pretty sure it was an exclusive game, very limited. For some reason, I don't think this game, I haven't checked, but I don't think this game is like an expensive, hard to find game, even though it was exclusive. But it's a fighting game with Tom and Jerry. It's strange. It's 3D, backgrounds, 3D characters and whatnot. Kind of on a fixed plane though, as far as the angle. But I just bought it because I like Tom and Jerry, and I just thought it was a strange idea for a game, so I picked it up. Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero from Midway. This game sounded great when they talked about it initially, but it's pretty terrible. It's a pretty terrible side-scrolling kind of beat 'em up brawler type of game. The controls is what kills it, because it has like Mortal Kombat fighting controls, and a game that needs better than that, because you're doing platforming, you're jumping around a lot, you're fighting characters coming at you. They really should have changed the control scheme for this game, and they didn't. It's kind of bland level design wise. It's nothing great. It reminds me of what they tried to do with Wolverine. Remember the X-Men Origins Wolverine? They were going to do one for everybody, but it failed miserably, so they just stopped at that one. And that's exactly what happened with Sub-Zero. They were going to do one for Scorpion and everybody else, but the game performed miserably because it's not a good game, and they left it off at Sub-Zero. So it's a novelty. Check it out if you want to. Then we have Deadly Arts. This game is another one of those 3D kind of action, or not 3D action, but 3D fighting games. It's from Konami. It's kind of bland. Nobody really stands out character-wise. It kind of just is. I'm pretty sure I picked this up for cheap on sale or something, or discount from clearance or something like that. It's an okay game. You won't remember it, 2 minutes after you play it, but it is what it is. Then you have Vigilante 8 Second Offense. Back in the day, there was a car combat game on the PlayStation called Twisted Metal, and it was one of those games I really wanted on the N64. I wanted the N64 to have a game like that, and Vigilante 8 is that game. Not as good as Twisted Metal, but still a really good card combat type of game when that genre was trying to be a big genre. And it was really good. It's really fun, especially when you're playing with friends. So it's definitely a lot of fun on the N64 with 4 players and 4 friends playing the game. It gets crazy, and that's when it's at its best. It's not as fun solo, but still a fun, cool game. Check it out. And then we have Bomberman 2 in Japan. I believe it was called Bomberman Hero. Was it Bomberman Hero? I think it was Bomberman Hero Second Offense in the West. And it is unlike the Bomberman 64, this is more of a traditional kind of Bomberman game where it's a fixed camera. It's not a 3D kind of platforming game. It's more of a side scroller-ish game where you go through levels and whatnot. More in line with the old Bomberman style of game. This one is really good, and I have this version because the American version or the West version is very expensive, and I just wanted the game to play, not to have some kind of collector's item. So very good game. Definitely should check it out if you're a Bomberman fan, especially. Next up, we have one of my all-time favorites, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. The Rogue Squadron game that started off the series on the N64. Technically amazing. Audio was great, especially for a cart-based game. Visuals were great. Controls, everything was just amazing in this game, especially for its time. And it spawned a series that went on into the GameCube and did more stellar things, but this is where it all started. An excellent game. You got to have this if you're an N64 fan and a Star Wars fan especially. Then we have Aiden Chronicles: The First Mage. It's a RPG on the N64, and there weren't many of them, and this one wasn't that great, but it was an RPG, so I bought it just to have an RPG to play on my 64. I would probably say it's the best RPG you'll find, like just straight up RPG you'll find on N64 from THQ, no less. I think it has a good story and good characters. I'm not in love with the battle system, but it's an okay game. It's not great, but if you want an RPG on your N64, it's the best way to go. And then we have Earthworm Jim 3D. Earthworm Jim was a series I loved on the Super Nintendo, or I loved on the Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, and the Sega Saturn. And this is the 3D version of it, and it's not very good. And it was a really weird, terrible development cycle that didn't produce a good game. But here it is, and check it out, a Rockstar published game on the N64. There's a whole cool story I want to talk about when it comes to Rockstar and what they came from and whatever. I'm going to do that in a mini doc at some point, but yeah, Earthworm Jim, it's okay. Pretty decent visuals. Bye. Then we have Resident Evil 2, the amazing I Don't Know How It Happened cart. The amazing I Don't Know How It Happened port of Resident Evil 2 from the PlayStation. And everything's here. All the cutscenes, everything is here. The visuals are better in this, but the audio is worse. Obviously, because they had to compress a lot, especially to get all the video onto this cart. But they did it. The whole game is here. There's nothing cut. And that's why I would happily went out and bought this game when it came out. And it is obviously one of the best, most revered Resident Evil games because it's getting the remaster. So yeah, check it out. If you have N64, you got to have this version of the game. And now we come to Turok 2, and as you can see, it's property of Blockbuster. I bought this game from the Blockbuster used bin, and it was one of the best purchases ever. Because I love the original Turok, but I kind of forgot about it by the time this one came out. Seeds of Evil is great. is a nice extension of that world. The visuals are great. The frame rate not as great, but because they're trying to push so much good visuals, the frame rate suffered from it. But I still enjoy it. It never bothered me. Didn't bother me back then. I played it recently. It hasn't bothered me today. It's just an excellent game. And the Turok series just went from good to great as you go numbered wise, from 1, 2 to Turok 3 is the final game I'm going to show today, and it is the best Turok game on the N64. Visually impressive, audio is impressive, story is nice and streamlined. It went back to the more dinosaur aspects of the first game to some degree, but it more extended on what happened in Turok 2. Story's great. This is one of the best looking games, probably the best looking game on the N64. You have to have it, and it is difficult, so beware of that. But if you can deal with that, then you're gonna have a great fun ride. Even today, I went and played this game earlier this year, and I enjoyed it just as much, I think, as the first time I played it. So check out Turok 3 on the N64, one of the best looking games out there. And that concludes Nintendo 64 Game Pack CD in the West. That concludes my N64 collection for this video. I have one more video to do. Like I said, it's going to be the best games on the system, so make sure you check it out. Check out the other videos in this series, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Peace.